Good afternoon. The next item of business is portfolio questions, and at question number 1 I call Sue Webber.
Presiding Officer, to ask the Scottish Government for what reason it decided to make a direct award of the Clyde and Hebrides ferry service contract to CalMac.
Cabinet Secretary Fiona Hislop.
This is a unique opportunity to change the emphasis from a commercially driven arrangement to a public-focused service, wholly directed at meeting the important and particular needs of island communities. A direct award will enable Scottish ministers to have greater influence over strategic objectives and significant decisions relating to the provision of the Clyde and Hebrides ferry services. This will provide the flexibility needed to drive improvements and adapt to the evolving needs of our island communities.
Sue Webber.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary. CalMac services have been pushed to the limit, and as we head into the summer months, islanders are being left at the whim of an ageing fleet. Thanks to last week's announcement on Glen Rosa, that's not going to be resolved until next year. Now that a direct award has been made, what guarantees has the Cabinet Secretary received from CalMac, CMAL and Ferguson Marine that the new contract won't result in the same poor level of service as the current one?
Cabinet Secretary.
The contract will be awarded in October. As it is, we've announced that that's our intention, our preferred intention, and that's what we're working to deliver. The last full year of statistics shows that CalMax, there are 170,000 scheduled sailings between October 2023 and September 2024. Only 3.4% were cancelled due to technical and other reasons. In terms of other cancellations, also weather-related issues can cause cancellations. In terms of the delivery of the new vessels coming in, I had a meeting this morning with CMAL in relation to those 4 vessels we're expecting over the next year. There's also very important ports and harbours work being conducted, and in terms of that investment and that support, that will be supplemented and supported by KPIs in that contract. I also had a meeting with the Chair of the Ferry Community Board this morning, and they are actively involved in ensuring that the service delivery improvements I talked about will be realised for the benefit of islanders.
Kenneth Gibson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As the Cabinet Secretary will know, concerns have been raised by frustrated islanders and others that CalMac has not fulfilled all the terms of the current contract. I was pleased to hear that there's going to be more customer focus in the next one, but what confidence does she have and what steps are in place to ensure that CalMac will indeed be more customer focused in the forthcoming contract in the months and years ahead?
Cabinet Secretary.
So I talked about the technical compliance and when I made my initial announcement, and in terms of what that will do, it will enable that oversight and that strategic oversight. In terms of the practice of delivery, instead of just simply working to contract without variations of that contract that can then be used for flexibility and service, there will be that continuous improvement culture and also operation, and indeed accountability to the KPIs I referred to, which are being developed in conjunction with the communities, but also with trade unions, for example. We'll try and drive forward that improvement and that culture that everyone expects.
Claire Baker.
Thank you. I do welcome the direct award to CalMac, which was the right thing to do. Yesterday we debated how we can empower our island communities, and part of that is ensuring they are better represented in the organisations delivering the services they rely on. Can I ask if the Cabinet Secretary is given active consideration to direct representation on the boards of CalMac and CMAL for islanders, and is the Government giving consideration to this?
Both already have islanders on their boards, and the next round of CalMac the board appointments which are about to commence will specifically reference islands representation.
Question number 2 is not lodged. Question number 3, Alexander Burnett.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government to what extent current projects will be included when making a cumulative impact assessment for a Section 36 application under the Electricity Act 1989, and I refer members to my registered interest as a member of a community affected.
Minister Alistair Allen.
Where new energy developments come forward, applications are subject to site-specific assessments by the decision-maker. The cumulative effects of developments are an important consideration in the decision-making process, alongside potential impacts on communities, nature and cultural heritage. When an application is ready to be determined, Scottish ministers consider all relevant material available to them before making any decision, and the merits of each proposal are considered on a case-by-case basis, and a careful balance must be struck.
Alexander Burnett.
I thank the Minister, and of course most people would assume that a reporter would consider all the available information. However, for the public inquiry into the proposed Hill of Fair wind farm, the cumulative impact assessment will only consider other projects which are consented or the subject of a full planning application at the 10th of August 2023. This is more than 2 years before the reporter will hold her inquiry and fails to take into account any applications which are known about and those in the earlier stages of planning and consultation, as well as any other energy infrastructure projects. Now, we know that the planning system is outdated, but given the Minister welcomed this week that councils were developing renewable energy mapping tools, is it not right that all available information is considered?
Minister.
Well, the member will not be too surprised, obviously, to know that I cannot comment on the specific case that he mentions. But it is the case that the decision makers in this process do consider all the available evidence. Now, I realise the point the member is asking about, which is about forthcoming proposals. But in reaching a decision, ministers will determine applications in accordance with legislative requirements and relevant policy, and any cumulative impact assessment that is made is limited to considering existing and already approved developments. However, as I've indicated, all representations that are made in any community about an application like this are considered when a decision is made.
Question number 4, Audrey Nicholl.
Officer, to ask the Scottish Government what discussions the Net Zero Secretaries had with ministerial colleagues regarding how recently announced Proof of Concept Fund will encourage an innovative just transition in the North East of Scotland region.
Secretary Gillian Martin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. We will launch a pilot Proof of Concept Fund this year to support university researchers, including those from the North East, to develop their innovative ideas and technologies, bridging the gap between groundbreaking research and commercial applications. Through this fund, we will hope to increase the pipeline of projects with commercial potential, supporting economic development. And meanwhile, we're also working in partnership with the UK Government and the North East of Scotland Regional Economic Partnership to develop their investment zone, which will help to accelerate the realisation of their regional economic strategy.
Audrey Nicholl.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for her response. It's absolutely vital that we work to support innovation at all levels, particularly when furthering our investment and ambitions to deliver our green energy transition. And in that regard, my constituency of Aberdeen South and North Kincardine and the wider North East hosts a wealth of innovators and inventors. So can I ask the Cabinet Secretary if she can say more about how the Scottish Government is supporting young tech innovators and entrepreneurs across Scotland?
Cabinet Secretary.
I thank Audrey Nicholl for that question. Our National Innovation Strategy sets out actions to utilise innovation as a driver to grow the economy and, of course, create jobs. And we're actively supporting entrepreneurs and young tech innovators through several initiatives, including our Tech Scaler programme, which is designed to create, develop and scale tech startups, supporting the Young Edge Awards to recognise and reward exceptional young talent in the tech sector. And we also work with universities and colleges to deliver the Entrepreneurial Campus Blueprint, ensuring that more young people develop entrepreneurial skills and providing support through the Ecosystem Fund, which enables young entrepreneurs to access vital resources, knowledge and connections.
Douglas Lumsden.
Presiding Officer, today the Just Transition Commission has published its latest damning report highlighting how this devolved government is failing workers in the North East. The message from this report is clear. This government is not delivering a just transition for Aberdeen and the North East. The SNP simply don't care about the hard-working oil and gas workers in the North East. So, Presiding Officer, my constituents don't need another report to tell them what they already know. They need action, and they need it now. So has the Cabinet Secretary read this report? What is her response and what is she going to do about it?
In relation to the substantive question, Cabinet Secretary.
Yes, well, first of all, I want to say that I have read the report, and indeed I welcome all the interventions that the Just Transition Commission made. I work very closely with the Just Transition Commission. I can't really answer Douglas Lumsden's question based on the original question that was put to me with Audrey Nichols' ask about the proof of concept fund, presiding officer. But just for clarity, for the Parliament to know that I take everything that the Just Transition Commission says very seriously, and I work with them on how we can deliver a just transition in the North East on a regular basis.
Thank you. Question number 5, James Dornan.
To ask the Scottish Government what discussions it has had with the UK Government regarding progress on the recommendations in the final report by the Social Tariff Working Group.
Minister Alistair Allen.
The Scottish Government's working group, which included energy suppliers and consumer, fuel poverty and disability groups, called for a social tariff to cut fuel bills for Scots in its final report. We wrote to the UK Government in March to share the final report and press for the urgent introduction of a targeted discount on bills to address unaffordable energy prices at source. We are in regular dialogue on energy affordability and have been fully involved in the UK Government's recently convened data working group, which is critical to delivering automatic and targeted energy bill support based on a sophisticated set of metrics. The powers to deliver this scheme are, of course, reserved. However, we remain committed to working with the UK Government to make urgent progress on this critical policy.
James Dornan.
Thank the Minister for that answer. And would you agree with me that the targeting of support is urgently needed to ensure that consumers are protected against high costs at source and can afford all their energy need, but also that while this report recommends a robust scheme, the reality is that the UK Government is ultimately responsible in this area and it must urgently deliver a unit rate discount with a level of discount proportionate to need?
Minister.
I wholeheartedly agree. We have worked hard and collaboratively to present, I think, a compelling way forward. And it's something that's achieved a rare degree of consensus around a social tariff to bring energy bills down. A key principle of our report is that support does, as the member indicates, needs to be targeted. It needs to be based on a meaningful set of metrics, including, for example, a combination of household income, medical need, rurality. And I have been clear with the UK Government that its current approach to rely on the warm home discount provides too little help for those most in need and not when they need it. So I call on them again to deliver a new and additional scheme in the form of a unit rate discount with a level of discount proportionate to need.
Question number 6, Ben Macpherson.
To ask the Scottish Government how it is working with partners to support the Port of Leith's contribution to Scotland's net zero ambitions.
Cabinet Secretary Gillian Martin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As part of the 4th Green Freeport, the Port of Leith will benefit from Green Freeport incentives, and these include reliefs on non-domestic rates, increased capital allowances, reduced national insurance costs, land and buildings transaction tax reliefs, as well as up to £25 million worth of seed capital and long-term funding provided by the Scottish Government, allowing local authorities to retain relevant non-domestic rates to reinvest in the programme. We've also committed to invest up to £500 million over 5 years to leverage private investment in the infrastructure and manufacturing facilities that are critical to the growth of the offshore wind sector. And we're taking a Team Scotland approach when engaging with potential inward investors, including Vestas, to ensure we maximise these opportunities.
Ben Macpherson.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that detailed answer and all the investment and effort that is going into realising the potential that has been set out. As has been mentioned, the green economic activity at the Port of Leith is developing and going to be significant, which is why in recent weeks I hosted a roundtable with employers, local educators and the Minister for Higher and Further Education to help facilitate further collaboration to nurture the workforce that will be required. I will be following up with a letter to the Scottish Government, but at the moment one of the suggestions that was made on the evening was to utilise some of the ScotWind revenues to help fund skills development initiatives in the area. Is this something that ministers could consider as part of the budget formation in the months ahead to prepare the workforce that we'll need in the coming years?
Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm glad that Graham Day was able to meet with Forth Ports and indeed Mr Macpherson on, I think it was the 12th of May. The 2025-26 budget utilised over £300 million of ScotWind funding to be targeted at activities with long-lasting benefits for the people of Scotland, and will continue to invest ScotWind revenues in a range of projects. The Forth Green at Freeport has a skills plan, as Mr Macpherson has just outlined, funded by businesses benefiting from the tax incentives at the site that I mentioned. The Green Freeports retain NDR provided by the government can also be invested in skills and workforce developments. But of course, Mr Macpherson will also know that we are providing targeted funding to colleges over the next year as part of the budget that was approved by Parliament to establish an offshore wind skills programme. And that's going to be helping create region-specific training hubs for offshore wind skills. And this is on top of funding that's already been committed to a just transition for the energy sector.
Sarah Boyack.
Can I welcome the Minister's reference to the importance of renewables manufacturing at the Port of Leith and the need to have a delivery, joined-up approach and invest in skills and training. But will she acknowledge the need to tackle the significant problem that planning delays are actually delivering, with the renewables sector regularly raising that with us, because projects can be in planning for over 2 years, and that's not just the actual project, all the supply chains and the jobs that need to come with those low-carbon projects?
Secretary.
So if I can point to the consents unit, the Energy Consents Unit in the Scottish Government, we've been tasked by the industry to vastly reduce the amount of time associated with consents. What we've done is we've invested in doubling the capacity of personnel in the Energy Consents Unit, and that has actually been met with a great deal of praise from the sector. We're actually committing to be delivering on consents within 12 months.
Question number 7, Ariane Burgess.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on its plans to improve transport infrastructure in the Highlands and Islands, particularly in response to the reported request from Highland Council for additional support to run its 6 ferries.
Cabinet Secretary.
The Scottish Government remains committed to continuing to improve the transport infrastructure in the Highlands and Islands, and that we have direct responsibility for, as we introduce new vessels to our ferry networks and deliver further upgrades to key trunk roads and public transport infrastructure. We've invested more than £2 billion in our ferry services since 2007, and we've outlined plans to invest around £700 million in a 5-year plan to improve ferry infrastructure. This includes the delivery of more new major ferries and the small vessels replacement programme. We are also supporting the 4 local authorities who operate their own ferry services and have increased funding from £41.7 million in 2023-24 to around £70 million in 2025-26. This includes the full £1.521 million requested by the Highland Council for this year.
Ariane Burgess.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer and, of course, welcome the funding for replacing the Corran ferry, which I had called for in this chamber. However, the rising costs of maintaining the ageing fleet, the Tory legacy of inflation and Labour's decision to increase national insurance contributions have put considerable pressure on the sustainability of these services. So will the Cabinet Secretary commit to asking Transport Scotland to boost Highland Council's funding this year?
Cabinet Secretary.
The funding for local authority ferries, which I outlined, which has increased from £41 million, £41.7 million to £70 million in this year, acknowledges obviously some of the increasing pressures. Transport Scotland does not fund Highland Council directly. It's actually, in terms of the local authority funding, the funding is determined at a local government level for local authorities, and the Cabinet Secretary for Finance and Local Government is actively involved in it. And as I outlined in my initial answer, we've been very responsive to the request from Highland Council.
Emma Roddick.
Can the Cabinet Secretary outline for the Chamber what improvements to transport infrastructure and provision have been brought about since the SNP took office, what has been achieved as a result, and what engagement the Government has had with the Highland Council since the announcement that it was to receive £28 million for the Corran ferry?
Cabinet Secretary.
So, since the announcing of the arrangements and agreements for the funding of the new Corn Ferry, the Scottish Government and Transport Scotland officials have been engaging with the Highland Council on a timeline for delivery of the new vessel and the potential procurement routes. It is for the Highland Council to consider and manage the appropriate route to overall delivery. And very briefly, in terms of what has been achieved for the Highlands Islands from the Scottish Government, there's been 10 major trunk road upgrades. We've opened new rail stations at Coram Bridge and Inverness Airport. Our investment recently enabled the lengthening of platforms on some Highland stations, enabling longer trains to be deployed this year on the Highland Main Line. 57,000 young people under 22 across the Highlands Islands benefit from free bus travel, and we've also invested £2 billion in ferry services since 2007. The road equivalent tariff saves passengers around £25 million per year, and Northern Isles residents receive a 30% discount on ferry fares, and we've recently extended free ferry travel for under 22s in local authority-run island communities.
Amy Halker-Johnston.
Thank you. The duelling of the A9 that was meant to be completed this year, noticeably absent from that. I have repeatedly highlighted the growing crisis in our ferries fleet, including those operated by our councils. In Highland, Orkney and Shetland, there is an increasingly urgent need for a serious replacement plan, one which could run into the billions of pounds. So can I ask the Cabinet Secretary, without passing the buck to local councils, who she knows fine well are reliant on their funding from the Scottish Government, what does she estimate to be the cost of any replacement scheme over the next 10 years? And is she comfortable with progress on delivering any replacement scheme, given there is still no timetable, no cost projection and no funding commitment in place?
Cabinet Secretary.
So the member will be aware that there is an Orkney Ferry Replacement Task Force and there is a Shetland Ferry Replacement Task Force. They are chaired by the Cabinet Secretary for Finance, meeting with the respective councils, and supported by Minister Fairley as the Connectivity Minister as well. He will also be aware that in the budget that he did not vote for, there was £10 million for each of those councils to do the exact work that he's outlining needs done to identify what the scale is. It's not just about ferry replacements, it can also be about other types of connectivity, including tunnels, which I know a number of people in the island communities that I'm personally very supportive of can look at as a potential alternative in the longer term. But he's right to identify the scale of what's required, which I think is why it was very important that the Scottish Government provided funding to help with that scoping that he has asked for.
Liam MacArthur.
Thank you. As the Cabinet Secretary has alluded to in the recent budget, thanks to the Scottish Liberal Democrats, additional funding was put in place to support the pathway towards the procurement of new ferries. They are, though, in the Isles who rely on these lifeline routes, I think, growing frustration at the lack of a timetable for that replacement process to get underway. So can the Cabinet Secretary advise when the task force is next due to meet and what indication she has of the likely timeframe for this process?
Cabinet Secretary.
As I outlined, it is the Cabinet Secretary for Finance and Local Government who chairs that task force. I'm not a member of that task force, but I will ask for the information that he requires to be relayed to him in written form.
Question number 8, Evelyn Tweed.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what engagement it has had with stakeholders regarding safe parking and road use in popular rural areas, including Loch Lomond and the Trossachs National Park.
Cabinet Secretary.
In Scotland, the majority of car parks and roads in rural areas, including Loch Lomond and the Trossachs, are managed locally by other local authorities or private car park owners. It will be a matter for each local authority to engage with stakeholders locally to promote the safe use of roads and car parks in their area and to adhere to any legislation that applies. For the Loch Lomond and the Trossachs National Parks specifically, the Scottish Government are members of the National Park Safe Recovery Action Group, which was formed in 2020 in response to the pandemic and the increased visitor levels. The group's primary objective is to collaboratively manage visitor-related pressures across the national park.
Evelyn Tweed.
Temporary clearways on trunk roads in popular rural locations such as the A84 and A82 play an important role in keeping our roads safe. To ask the Scottish Government what consideration has been made on whether these clearways should be made permanent.
Cabinet Secretary.
So several permanent clearway orders for popular tourist locations on the trunk road network are currently under consideration. This includes the locations mentioned by the member, and these orders will of course proceed through the relevant legislative processes. That includes the A84 at Loch Nubrig and A82 at the Falls of Falach, where that's an area that where Clearways obviously may have a role, but a lot of that determination must follow the relevant legislative process.
Thank you. That concludes portfolio questions. I'll allow a moment for front benches to organise for the next item of business.